everyone. So weird on a microphone. It might seem a little extra, but, well, we are a little extra, but we are recording this, and so it picks up the audio better, because we have so many employees who wanted to come today but couldn't, because of course we are running a bank right now. So this will be on the extraordinary for them to watch later, so the mic is for that purpose. But good morning. Thank you for coming. We appreciate you're here this morning on behalf of the entire Enrichment Network. If you're new to the Enrichment Network or haven't been to an event, it really exists to help you be the best you can be personally and professionally. And we are always open to ideas. So actually today's seminar came from a survey we did last January where nutrition was an item of interest for you guys. And so we were really excited to connect with Vitality, Med Spa and Wellness, and Dr. McRae is here with us today. So I do not have a medical background, that's probably a shock, but I'm going to read this to you and I might mess up some of the terms. But Vitality Natural Wellness and Med Spa founder, Dr. Melissa McRae, is a board certified family physician specializing in integrative medicine, functional medicine, and non-surgical aesthetic medicine in and around Columbus, Ohio. She graduated from both Ohio University and Ohio University College of Osteopathic Medicine, summa cum laude. A bit about what she's doing now. Dr. McRae speaks locally and nationally on topics of lifestyle, medicine, and wellness. She was a featured speaker at the American College of Lifestyle Medicine in Washington, D.C., discussing a system she developed that allowed medical wellness and nutrition to get covered through insurance companies. And there's a lot more bio on her website and a lot bigger words. So I would encourage you to go check out their website. We're very thrilled to have her here today. Our paths crossed years ago when I worked in a hospital system, and she was a joy then, and we're thankful to have her here today. So we welcome you.
Thank you. It is so good to see everybody this morning, and you had an awesome breakfast, and so I think we should just do this like once a week. So I was so excited that Christy invited me to come and talk to you all about food as medicine, and she expressed her interest on the surveys last year. So I was really thinking through, what can I bring to you that you haven't already heard before, or I don't want to drone on about everybody knows we should probably not eat sugar as much as we do. And so I hope today to bring some light on different approaches to medicine, different approaches to food as medicine, kind of bridge the gap between what we know is there, but then also kind of open your eyes to some of the new things that are happening in the world in relationship to food as medicine. So thank you all for having me. Again, I'm Dr. Melissa McRae. We have an office right down the road here at Vitality, Mansfield by Old Bag of Nails. We were downtown for about 7 years, which was awesome. We have more parking now, which is great, but we do miss being downtown with everybody. We also have an office in Powell, and we have another office in the Delaware location. So if you're ever out and about, stop by and we'll show you around. Take me a hot minute just to figure out which way to look. So Cherie is going to be my clicker today. If you see me giving her a signal, because I don't know where we are on the screens. So food is medicine. How many of you have heard that expression before, food is medicine? Right, great. So a lot of us have heard that expression. I know there are many, many physicians who understand medicine very well, but I can tell you there are many physicians who don't necessarily understand food as medicine very well. So again, today what we're going to do is we're going to bridge that gap a little bit between what we know about medicine, what we know about food, how they intertwine together, what kind of signals they can be for each other, and how we can help our health improve overall. So today is going to be a big sneak peek. I think most of you could also probably agree that our current medical system is pretty broken right now. There's, from every aspect of care, of time, of digging in, finding root cause, treatments, education. There's just so many areas right now where the medical system is just sort of falling behind and failing us a little bit. We are a country that spends some of the most money on healthcare in the entire world, but yet we are one of the sickest countries in the entire world. Our infant mortality rate is one of the highest in the world. And when you think about all of the countries out there, to think that infant mortality is such a big problem in the United States, but we all look at where it is in medicine and how can we make it all better. There's something we refer to as FLC syndrome, and it's a disease syndrome. Has anybody ever heard of FLC syndrome? It's feel like crap syndrome. So we see this every day, right? Somebody comes in and they say, I don't feel well, but I had all my blood work done and I sat down with my doctor and they told me everything was fine. We see this every day. I don't feel well. They tell me I'm fine. I don't feel well. So we see those patients come in and their typical experience is they have less than 8 minutes with their provider. They try to figure out what's happening. They get a couple of symptoms listed out because we can only address 3 problems at a time in an office visit, or you have to come back. You have 8 minutes to do that. Your doctor has 8 minutes to educate you on that and treat you. And you can't be surprised when you end up with a prescription when you leave. It's just a broken system right now. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna try to change the concept of not doing a pill for every ill, getting rid of FLC syndrome, and really treating things at the root of where they come from. So this is where we go to functional medicine. What is functional medicine? You know, medicine is really going through this big paradigm shift. We have insight into the amazing wonder of what biology is and cellular physiology, all of these little channels that are triggered, what triggers them, what turns them on, what turns things off. Nutrigenomics is a whole field of medicine right now about how nutrition actually affects your genetics. Turning gene expression on, turning gene expression off. You won't usually know that in your 8-minute office visit. So we have a huge opportunity right now to see what is happening. We can do so much better in medicine than what typically is happening in the medical field right now. Traditional medicine is organized by organ systems, right? So if you have a stomach problem, you see the stomach doctor. If you have a brain problem, you see the brain doctor. If you have a bone problem, you see the bone doctor. And the problem with that is there are some benefits to it, but the problem is your body is not individual organs all put together, it's an entire system. So once we start looking at the body as a system, instead of just organ systems, we can see how all of this new world of what we know in medicine can open up for you. In functional medicine, we approach it like that. We approach the body as a single unit. We look for root causes of what's happening. We use something called a symptom survey. So when people come in, we can just really see how their body is responding, what evidence it's giving us, what signs it's giving us, so we can see as an entire unit what's happening. When we apply a functional medicine approach, which is that concept, we see a typically 62% change in people's symptoms in the first 10 days. Now, that's, I don't even know where the prescription pads are in our office. We do send prescriptions sometimes. But that change, that huge change in symptoms and how people feel, that occurs almost 100% from one major change in their life. Do you know what that one major thing might be that caused that change in 10 days? Food. Food. We focus on a change in food. So I just want everybody to understand, this is not just me trying to encourage you to eat healthier and move better and get some daily exercise. This is life-changing information. Food as medicine needs to be taken so seriously if you really want to have optimal health. If you want optimal health, you can take 40 different pills and still not feel very optimal. But if you start at the root level, where food comes into your body, you can change your life. That's what we're gonna dig into today. So I think we all probably agree our food is killing us. You know, this is not grandma's food anymore. Fast food is everywhere. People eat out probably 4 to 5 times a week now. Just so much different. And Americans are sick. We are a very, very sick population. Over 100 million people. Almost half the entire population right now is pre-diabetic or diabetic. 122 million people have heart disease. When you think about even the heart disease folks, that's 820,000 deaths a year from heart disease. That's 2,300 a day. We have huge issues, right? Huge issues, and it's almost all from food. So instead of debating like who's gonna pay for all this, right? Health insurance is dreadfully expensive. Doesn't matter who we are. Health insurance is expensive. Going to see a physician is expensive. Medicine is expensive. Every test is crazy expensive. So instead of figuring out like, how are we gonna pay for this and who's gonna pay for it, we can really change the focus on what can we do about it so we don't have to utilize those services, right? So let's do that. The answer is staring us in the face at least 3 times a day about what we can do. We can change what we eat. So this one might be hard to see. So this is just an example. We had a 12-year-old little boy come into the practice. His name was James. Super frustrated. His parents were just really frustrated, didn't know what to do. James just seemed broken, right? His behavior was off the charts. He couldn't focus. He would study his spelling words and the next day act like he had no idea what they were even talking about, like I haven't seen these before. Behavioral issues with school, hard to make friends, tired all the time, didn't want to go outside and play, just really struggling. So he was evaluated and found to have attention deficit disorder, which sounds very likely in that scenario, but the parents really did not want to treat him with medication. Is there anything they could do? So we dug in a little bit, found out, poor James, if you have a population you want to focus on kids right now because what they're eating is atrocious. So he was eating, I would say, a standard American diet, tons of processed foods, fast food several times a week. Everything almost came from a package because mom and dad both work and it's hard to try to eat healthy and prep food and buy everything you need, right? So all of the things we understand, but he was eating really crappy food. At school, they would give little rewards of candy, and so he was getting more sugar and all of that at school. It was just a bad setup. He had had several ear infections throughout his childhood. He had tubes in his ears, but that meant he had over 10 exposures to antibiotics from the time he was 0 to 5, and that's a critical time for the insides of your body to be working ideally. So this poor kid had a setup for a metabolic disaster. He had low levels of zinc, he had low levels of magnesium, his antioxidants were low. We did some gut tests on him because you will find that almost everything relates to the gut. You'll hear me say that over and over today. He was a mess inside. So the first thing we did is we focused on food. Actually, like 90% of what we did is we focused on food. It was hard, it was not easy because it's not easy to change the way a family functions with food and the time, everything about it. There's an ease and a comfort level with what you're used to doing. So it was really hard. But if you can see, this is his handwriting after 2 months of eating different. We did replace zinc, we did replace magnesium, probiotic. We worked to heal what was happening on the inside, but this is mostly food. So you never ever want to underestimate what is happening in a body and how you can or cannot maybe manage it by changing what you put within you. So I like to say we use the most powerful drug we've ever come across in James. Something that affects his protein synthesis and affects how his body absorbs nutrients and how his brain works and the nervous system, how those neurotransmitters are made in his gut and then sent to the brain and how he behaves. And we did that with the most powerful medicine, food. So food is not just calories, and that's the other thing I want you to think about. Food is not all about, we love pretty food, we love food that tastes good, all those things, but food is not just that. Food is not just fuel. Food is literally what is going to tell your body what it needs to do. If you don't have certain types of food, then your body can't perform in ways that it's wired to. That whole field of nutrigenomics I talked about, literally certain types of food will turn gene expression on or off that can do everything from inhibit or speed up cancer growth. Can turn on diabetes or turn off diabetes. So don't just think of food as pretty, tastes good, or energy. Think of it as the data system that actually is going to completely run your body. So everything that you put in your mouth is either going to help you or harm you. That's the other thing to kind of focus on. It's a conscious effort. When you put something in your mouth, this is either going to hurt you or it's going to help you. So keep thinking that. Hippocrates, 2,000 years ago, the famous expression that he said that he Who knew how much that was going to impact everything? All disease begins in the gut. We might not always see like this direct dot-to-dot correlation with what is happening to a system, but we know almost every autoimmune disease begins in the gut. We know most nervous system diseases begin in the gut. We know that mood disorders very commonly, about 75% of the time, start in the gut. So when you think about all the different diseases we have out there, when we treat the body from the inside out and we have that healthy gut, you're going to see a lot of the diseases of the modern world go away. We have trillions of bacteria in our gut. Those bacteria, it's like a whole nother community that you're hosting every single day. And it's super important that they're happy in there. We have all kinds of analogies we talk about at Vitality. I don't have time for all those today, but sometime we can maybe meet back and I'll share about the gut microbiome and how I think of it as this great little neighborhood. But just know you have trillions of little visitors in your body that hang out there, and it's super important that they're happy inside of you. 2/3 of your immune system comes from your gut. So if you want to stay healthy, one thing you can do is make sure you're putting good things inside of you, because that's your first line of defense for the immune system. This gut bacteria community that's in there with those trillions, we call it the microbiome. So when you hear me refer to the microbiome, it's all the gut bacteria that stay inside there. So now you're like, okay, prove it. Prove to me that these little critters that are along for the ride are really that important. So I just picked a couple of fun studies that are just really relevant, I think, to almost everybody. This is one example. There is a bacteria that we all have inside of us called Lactobacillus reuteri. It's in every one of us. If you do stool testing, you can measure it. You know, you can go online and pick a stool test and they'll give you the results. You'll find this bacteria oftentimes inside there. You can see at what density it's also present, which is super cool. So this is the same bacteria that's found in sourdough bread, and it's the component that actually makes the sourdough bread sour. This same bacteria can inhibit cancer cell growth significantly. For people who don't have high numbers of this bacteria, we see more aggressive breast cancer. So you can see somebody with a healthy diet, their tumor growth rate is significantly less. You'll see somebody with a fast food diet. They don't show the measurements of Lactobacillus reuteri on that one, but it's an inverse relationship. So more fast food, less of the good bacteria, more breast cancer growth. And then what they did is they took the people who eat more fast food and they added the Lactobacillus reuteri to water and had them drink it 3 times a day, and you'll see the cancer cell of the breast tumor decrease again. All from this little bacteria that we carry around with us every day. Next one we can talk about is Jimmy Carter. So Jimmy Carter, former president of the United States, oldest living president we have. He had metastatic melanoma. I'm not sure if you know anybody who's had metastatic melanoma. Just most devastating process, right? Metastatic melanoma has a very bad prognosis, and we don't have a lot we can do about it. So it's a horrible thing. He actually had metastatic melanoma to the brain. So they put him on this newer form of cancer treatment called immunotherapy. And immunotherapy is so awesome. It's looking at your genetics and finding out where your body might respond. And they can do it with certain types of cancer, and melanoma is one. But the thing about melanoma and immunotherapy in general, you'll have some people who respond amazing, and you'll have other people who are non-responders. And it's not like typical therapies where you kind of have like this, line of people, some respond better. This is either people do or they don't. So they were trying to figure out, like, what in the world makes somebody a responder or a non-responder? His response rate was so good, he is cancer-free. So the oldest living president of the United States had immunotherapy. He no longer has metastatic melanoma. It's crazy. So when they compared everything they could compare to responders and non-responders for metastatic melanoma and immunotherapy, they found it came down to one thing. And it was a bacteria in your gut called Akkermansia mucophenil. This bacteria loves to live in a certain type of mucus that these little cells called goblet cells make. And what they found is one food in particular loves to stimulate that type of cell, pomegranates. So pomegranates. those people would eat pomegranate seeds, they would increase the mucosa that the Akkermansia likes to live in. The levels of Akkermansia goes up. Those are the responders. The ones who are non-responders have 0 Akkermansia. Now, we've been measuring Akkermansia for 5 or 6 years because it's related to obesity. People who don't have this bacteria typically are overweight and they have a dreadful time losing weight. People who have the bacteria can maintain their weight pretty well. So we've been looking at it like that, but it's amazing to me to think that you can take somebody with this devastating disease and because of a bacteria presence, they'll respond to therapy or not. What you eat is either helping you or harming you. And so keep that in your mind as you make food choices, because our body loves diversity and our body loves maintaining all of this really healthy microbiome. We know that there are a lot of foods that are really good for us. So fermented foods, vegetables, berries, whole foods. So whole foods are foods that don't need a label. If you try to figure out, is this a whole food or not? I don't know. Do you know what it is? If you know what it is, that is a whole food. I like to say if it has more than 5 ingredients, it is no longer a whole food. There's too much that's been done to it. So we have some handouts for you at the end. One is a holiday handout. So just if you're trying to make better choices, what kind of better choices are out there and what kind of substitutions. And then we also have a second handout that's just also like anti-inflammatory foods. So you can get a better idea. Don't worry about like writing that down or memorizing that. So what about, so foods that we take in are helping our gut microbiome, but I also talked about how foods can trigger gene expression on and off. Is everyone familiar with stem cells? Okay, stem cells, these perfect little bundles of information, fantastic. We have them inside of us. As we get older, our stem cell lines kind of drop a little bit, but these stem cells are incredible. So in this study, they took 20,000 people and they had heart disease. So they gave them 2 cups of hot chocolate a day made out of cacao. So dark chocolate, high in antioxidants. And the goal was to see if they could affect their stem cells with hot chocolate. What they found is people who had 2 cups of hot chocolate a day doubled the amount of stem cells in their system within 2 months. So 7.5 grams of chocolate a day lowered their heart attack risk by 39%. So you can argue that hot chocolate is good for you. So that, you know, when you think about, oh my goodness, like literally just putting that in us, turning on some gene expressions that allow stem cells to be released to increase the small blood vessels in your heart so you get better blood flow and you don't have a heart attack, it's pretty cool. We also have foods that inhibit cancer cells. So cancer also makes stem cells, and they make broken stem cells, and they make more cancer. So we know there are certain foods that really work great for this. So purple potatoes, cocoa, green tea, walnuts, extra virgin olive oil. All of these really great foods can help that, but let's talk a little bit about the mighty walnut. So they took 800 patients who had stage 3 colon cancer, and if they took, in those patients, if they ate 2 servings of walnuts in a week with stage 3 colon cancer, they had a 53% improvement in survival and a 66% decreased recurrence rate. That's crazy good information. When you think about all of the medications we have out there and all of the therapies and all of the trials, and we see how powerful food can be to turning things on and off, food is medicine. And not just healthy food, we all need healthy food. Food is medicine. So what if we applied a lot of that philosophy to what we do every day? Not just food as calories and not just food as fuel, but food as medicine. We want to be healthy, we want to live optimally. What if we could think about, instead of thinking about which drugs we need, what if we could just think about the foods that we could eat instead? So today, I'm going to do a quick rundown on the foods that you really should avoid. These are things that in most people, so I'll say generally speaking, in most people, these are harmful. They don't turn on a lot of good genes, and they don't help your gut at all. They don't keep the bacteria in there super happy, so they can't do the things they need to do. I also want you to think in terms of inflammation. Okay, so a lot of foods that we eat are inflammatory. How many of you know that you can tell when you're drinking too much coffee because your hands maybe feel a little stiff? Or if you eat sugar for a couple of days, you just feel kind of puffy and gross. So that's inflammation. Inflammation is the heart of all disease. If you have something that's a little inflamed, it's probably not a problem, you can heal and repair it, but pretend like you just rub your arm. You know, you rub your arm for a couple of minutes and no big deal. Imagine if you just did this for about 3 days straight, you would have this ulcer, open, oozy sore on your arm. Chronic inflammation causes disease. I'm going to tell you about the most inflammatory foods because inflammatory foods cause disease. My challenge for you, you've got this window, you guys all escaped me before Thanksgiving. We've got this really nice window where I'm going to challenge you to cut out some of these things before next major holidays come through. You've got a good window. See how you feel. It's a lot easier to make decisions about food when you're feeling great than when you're not feeling so good. So my challenge is cut out some of these inflammatory things and see how you feel. So first one we're going to talk about is sugar. Sugar's bad. There's no better way to say it. Sugar's bad. We really think about it like a poison in our system when we talk about sugar. It goes by many names. You know, high fructose corn syrup, I think it's hilarious when you look at a label and there's actually like 5 types of sugar in the ingredient label, but you think only the first one. Men typically take in about 9 teaspoons, your body can tolerate 9 teaspoons a day, women 7 teaspoons a day. The average American takes in 17 a day. Coke has about 20 teaspoons. Chai latte has about 24 teaspoons, and that's before you even eat anything else. So we're just inundated with sugar. Sugar's everywhere. It is the most inflammatory thing you can put in your system as far as damage goes. The other interesting thing about sugar is when you take in anything with high sugar, so you enjoy that lovely grande chai latte, your immune system is shut off for 4 hours. So if you want to stay healthy over the holidays, if you want to stay healthy in general, every time you have something that's a higher sugar intake, you literally just shut off your immune system for fighting infection for 4 hours. So whatever motivates you to avoid sugar, you should avoid sugar. It is a poison in your system. Inflammation is the heart of all disease, and sugar is the worst culprit in that, especially in our standard American diet. So the next one is gluten. Gluten, you know, it's made to be the villain frequently, like, oh, I shouldn't eat gluten, and I hear you shouldn't eat gluten, and people say, I eat gluten and I'm fine. I will tell you that the majority of people do not respond well to gluten. You may not feel it, you may not see it, but the gluten, there's a lot of, again, discussion of it. How we process breads and bread-like things and things that contain gluten in the United States are very different. Once it has been processed, it does not respond well in our body. My son he definitely does not tolerate gluten, and you can tell because he will get a rash around his eyes the minute he has gluten. But he went to Italy this summer, and I was like, you know what? Go ahead, have some pizza. Not a single problem. So it really is this issue we have here with how we process our foods. But in the United States, I'm going to tell you, gluten is bad in most people. There are lots of gluten-free grains that are really important to kind of make the switch towards. If you try to think of what's gluten in, pretty much any kind of bread, cracker, baked good, pies, pizza crust, anything that's bread-like is going to have gluten. That's probably the easiest way to cut back. If you don't want to go into a deep dive of nutrition, just anything that has bread or bread-like, just assume it has gluten unless it has a gluten-free label. Next is saturated fats. This is, when we think of the word saturated fats, just really think about processed foods. If it comes in a package or a box or from a restaurant, it's probably going to have higher saturated fats. Saturated fats have a different taste, which is really nice to a lot of people, and so that's why restaurants will tend to use more saturated fats. If you think about, well, how can I determine what's a fat, what's a saturated fat and what's not? Typically fats that are solid at room temperature are saturated fats. So if you can pick more fats that are liquid at room temperature, you know you're going to be choosing typically the ones that are a little bit better for you. Processed foods, again. You'll realize, like all this time, I have not said vegetables were horrible for you yet. So, processed foods, processed meats, processed cheeses, anything in a box. And then the last one I want to touch on that we don't hear a lot about is the omega-6 fatty acids. You have these wonderful nutrients that they take in. You know, fats are important for your body, for sure. So we have omega-3s, which are like the superheroes, the wonderful anti-inflammatory fats, and then we have omega-6, which are typically the bad guys and super inflammatory. In our body, we actually require both, but they need to be in balance. And the problem is almost everything we eat is omega-6. So omega-6s are found in everything. Corn, soybean oil, sunflower oil, which is a lot of the oils that processed foods are prepared with, are really high in omega-6s. So it's a balance of both. There is no deficiency in an American's diet for omega-6. There's a huge deficiency of omega-3. Omega-3, you think of like fish oil, right, the healthy. If you take a fish oil supplement, make sure it's just omega-3, because I can guarantee you, you probably don't need the 6s, because they'll put 3 and 6 together. The omega-6s are very inflammatory, very, very inflammatory. And the omega-3s, again, are anti-inflammatory. So refined oils, processed oils, again, anything that's pretty much processed is going to be high in omega-6s. If you're looking for specific ingredients, you can look at corn oil, sunflower oil, and soybean oil. Those are the biggies for omega-6s. If somebody has a lot of achiness, say they don't have rheumatoid arthritis, but their joints hurt, you know, I have run-of-the-mill arthritis, or if you're hearing something like that, you can really make a concerted effort to cut down on these refined oils, and you would be surprised at just cutting out foods with those oils, how much better you would feel. So it doesn't take much. So those are the categories I want you to really be highly aware of. You know, sugar, gluten, and dairy are kind of the big ones on our list when people come in medically, but those are the ones I want you all to be aware of, because you've probably heard of the others. So what should you eat? And this is actually super simple. 6 to 9 servings of vegetables a day. Lean meats, nuts and seeds, berries, whole foods. If you focus on whole foods, foods that don't need a label, you will be amazed at what your body does. Your gut will be so happy with you, and you'll be able to tell exactly. So 6 to 9 servings of vegetables a day. Most people get 1 or 2, so that seems like, wow, how in the world do I get that many vegetables? I will tell you, a smoothie is your best friend if you're not used to getting that many vegetables, because you can pack like 4 cups of greens into a smoothie and like half a cucumber and some celery, and surprise, you're already at like 4 to 5 servings of vegetables in a day, just from that smoothie. So if you have a hard time doing it, find easy ways to do it. Frozen vegetables, you know, pack your freezer with frozen vegetables. They're usually flash frozen. They don't put a lot of stuff in them at all. Easy way to get them out. Put it with every meal. For breakfast, lunch, and dinner, a lot of us get caught up in like breakfast food. You know, our breakfast foods are not really that healthy for the most part. But if you think of breakfast as not breakfast food, but just think of it as like breakfast, lunch, and dinner is just nourishment, nourishment, and nourishment. You don't have to have specific breakfasty foods at breakfast time. So just change your mindset a little bit. You can have vegetables at breakfast. It's a really good thing. It makes your day a lot easier to get 6 to 9 servings in if you get a little vegetable at breakfast time. So brightly colored vegetables. The healthiest diets have a variety of 30 different foods a week. I think, you know, when I think of what I buy at the grocery store, many times on the click list, it's like reorder. It's just when I have like, you know, like we eat the same types of things. So it's really, really important to just start picking out a few different things. Your body loves diversity because all of those trillions of bacteria in there, they're all pretty picky and they like their own thing. So you gotta feed them all. You don't have to feed them a lot, but they love exposure to a lot of variety. The more diverse your diet is, the more diverse your gut microbiome is. The more diverse your gut microbiome is, the healthier you will be. Water, that's the other thing that most people don't get enough water in. It's gonna help flush out all the bad stuff. So 6 to 9 servings of vegetables will change your life, and drinking plenty of water. Stick to whole foods. foods that don't need a label. You don't have to worry about a specific meal plan. Just eat foods that don't need a label. We have so much documentation about what can treat inflammatory disorders. People can take lots of different medicines. You know, I don't know how many times we see somebody come in and their arthritis isn't controlled, so they want to put them on more of an immune suppressant or an IV therapy to get their arthritis under control. And what I would love to see is a huge focus on let's change your diet first and then see what you need. We've had people who have been essentially almost bedridden from things like psoriatic arthritis. After 2 months of changing their diet and fixing some of the things that were broken on the inside, requires 0 medication. So our goal is always to get people off of medicine. Use what your body knows how to do to heal and repair itself. Your bodies are incredibly made. And just allowing them to do what they were supposed to do. The last one is, this is just something to keep in mind. Hopefully you'll start hearing more about this. This is called the flavorome. The flavorome is the study of each specific food, what it does turn on, what it does turn off, and how it reacts in the body. This to me is looking into the future. It's so incredible what we can do. Looking at substances in your food and seeing how they turn reactions on or off in your body. It is where we need to go with medicine. We don't need to go in the direction of finding more medicines that can fix things that we're doing to ourselves. Like finding out ways that we can heal ourselves with what we are created to do. Like our bodies are incredibly made to do that. So I want you to keep in mind the flavorome to see how food sets the stage for your body to heal and repair, to live long and healthy lives and live optimally. We really focus on the basics. Like if we can really focus and narrow in on what does our body need, the idea that we can live this optimal life is right in front of us. So, thank you all for coming this morning. Hopefully that shared some information you haven't heard or seen before. And if anybody has any questions?
Hi. Great presentation, first of all. You haven't talked about salt, and there's a lot of out there. So what are your thoughts about, reducing salt in your diet, looking for foods? I often look at it, I know we probably as a general population have too much salt, so.
That's a great question. I rely on genetics so much for salt intake, like to guide me on salt intake. 20% of the population will actually lower their blood pressure with higher salt intake. 80% will raise their blood pressure, and it's genetically determined. So you can say on average eating a lower salt diet is good because it does cause fluid retention. On average, we eat too much food containing salt, but salt is not necessarily the villain behind all high blood pressure at all. So I don't talk about salt a lot. If you're eating whole foods, there's not tons of salt in there. It's only so if we cut out the junk food or the food that's not whole food, we don't even have to worry about salt. There's a great book out there called Salt Your Way Back to Health. It's a fascinating book. I don't recommend everybody just start adding salt to everything, but it's a good eye-opener that salt is not the only villain. It's not a low salt diet for everybody.
So you have to know how your body reacts to it. So you've got to have that testing.
Or even just, you can do, it's great to do trials, like you can do a low salt diet for 2 months, and if your blood pressure is not responding, you're probably one of those people that doesn't have a response. Yeah.
What's your opinion on stevia and monk fruit to sweeten things?
So, monk fruit is probably one of my favorite sweeteners to go with. It just depends, because sometimes they'll put in there sucrose, and sometimes sucrose is not as good. But as a sweetener, stevia and monk fruit, they would be better choices than using sugar for sure. Monk fruit is really nice because you can switch it up as a 1-to-1 ratio when you're cooking and it still kind of tastes the same. Stevia does have a little bit of that aftertaste, but certainly better than using just plain sugar. So kind of the same thing. Honey and maple syrup are probably my go-tos for sweeteners because they're just a little bit more of what's found. But even too much of a good thing is not good either. So honey, maple syrup, I'll choose first. Monk fruit if you're gonna be baking something and you don't want 2 cups of sugar in your recipe.
Do you have any data or knowledge about the financial differences of the typical American diet, that one, versus Whole Foods diet? Because healthy food is extremely expensive.
It is. That is also, that is an economic and a geographic and a very wonderful political question. You know, we have a food desert right here. Like, try to find a vegetable within 3 miles of this spot, you're gonna struggle unless you go to a restaurant and get a salad. So it makes a big difference. You know, if you're in a larger city, you can go to an Indian market and get vegetables you've never even seen before for less than $1. You know, if you try to buy a head of broccoli that doesn't have brown spots and funny things on it, it can be like $3 here. It is different. That's why I love frozen vegetables, honestly, because you get frozen vegetables on sale. You can like stock up your freezer with frozen vegetables. Fresh is great, but at least frozen, they're so. But if we look at demographics, not everybody has access to getting frozen vegetables and storing them in a freezer, and so it's a big political question for sure.
I have a 6-year-old that is one of the pickiest eaters probably ever. She has texture issues. Like, to eat a green bean, she has to cover it in ketchup. Like, horrible. I know. So we looked into some of those like powders.
Yeah.
Is that even a decent option to add to her food to try and get something else better in her stomach?
Yeah, that's great. So the powders, you'll see the ingredient list. There's huge amounts of different types of vegetables, which is actually awesome because it exposes all those bacteria to a lot of different things without her having to eat it. It's missing the fiber, it's missing the inulin, it's missing like some of the really good things, but when we talk about good, better, best, it's definitely better.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Do you have like a brand that you recommend?
You know, they've gotten pretty good about the brands out there. Vital Greens is probably one that's well known. Athletic Greens is a really great one, but it's dreadfully expensive. So it's nice because there's more and more options for that. You want to be careful with gummies because the corn syrup. But
gummies.
Sneak some powder in there somewhere.
Yeah, thank you.
Yes.
I know you recommended olive oil or avocado oil. I never use avocado oil, but are there any other cooking oils that you would recommend that are the healthier options?
Those are my top 2.
Okay.
For sure. I have a really cool list that I can send you, Christy, if you want. And it breaks down all the different oils and which ones are high in omega-6s and which ones are in omega-3s. It makes it super easy to try to narrow down like what is my focus. You will find on there that corn, sunflower, and soybean are very high in that. And you will find olive oil and avocado are like some of the best. So I'll just stick with those, but good list for you.
Okay.
So for those of us with teenagers that eat a lot, so like we could do a decent job. I mean, don't get me wrong, I could do better, but on our major meals, like he's like always hungry, right? So if I go the fruit and vegetable route, like it's not. I know some can be more filling if they have more fiber, but it's the snack thing that I think is the worst. So like, do you have recommendations for teenagers in that train of thought, like snacks they can have things, because a lot of times they'll, I used to be like, get a little like cheese thing, and I'm like, oh, cheese is on there, and I'm like, I'm thinking of even like the stuff I thought was like whole grain, but still gluten. So any advice for parents with teenagers on stuff that will keep them full?
Yeah, that's great. And teenagers are expensive to feed.
Thank you.
Man. So incorporate grains. Grains are great, filling, take up a lot of space inside, they expand a little when they get in there. Of course, meats, proteins are gonna help fill them up. So typically teenagers can get by with a lot of grain, meat, and veggies. Dairy is not horrible in everybody. You just have to kind of see how people respond to it. So being able to add some dairy to a meal is very filling. So those are some good ways to fill them up. It's just add more grains. Big pile of grains and everything on top of it.
You've heard, I'm sure, of Balance of Nature.
Yeah.
Is that a good product or is that a scam?
You know, there are so many different lines of things out there.
But they're basically good though, right?
Most of them are pretty good. You know, people have different thoughts on network marketing, but they will have some of the better products because their quality control has to be high, whatever your thoughts are on that. Physician grade products you can get easily online. So you can get different higher end products. You want to be careful buying a lot of things on Amazon because they're oftentimes aftermarket packaged and delivered, expired, not quality tested, even though the label looks the same. So you have to be careful with that. We have some great resources in town. You know, Mrs. B's is here and Cupcake Corners. They always have higher quality products. I would say probably just the biggest things is be careful of Amazon, and then it's very easy to dig into a company and just find out if they're reputable or not.
What's your opinion on Greek yogurt?
I'm a fan of Greek yogurt. Yeah, people who don't have dairy issues. Greek yogurt, if somebody does have like some sensitivities to dairy, they can usually process goat's milk and sheep's milk better, dairy. And then Greek yogurt, the way it's also created, is also a little thicker, more nutrient dense, and not quite as irritating for people. Not usually as much sugar either. That's usually the biggest thing with yogurt is the sugar.
So I've had health issues like I'm sure lots of people, but a lot of my, levels are within the typical medical field's rate of normal, but I did have one of my thyroid antibodies was, a good twice as high as what it should be kind of thing. Do you have any foods you recommend that are helpful for thyroid antibodies?
Yeah, that's a super question because autoimmune thyroid issues are the most common autoimmune issue in the United States. Super common, especially in women. Gluten acts, it has a similar structure as the antibody. So gluten feeds autoimmune thyroid issues like crazy. Anybody who has an autoimmune thyroid should not eat gluten.
Okay.
Molecular structure, it's too close to mimicry. You don't want to do that. You can look up anti-inflammatory diet or autoimmune protocol.
Okay.
And there's different varieties of them. You'll find slight variations, but they're all pretty similar. And if somebody has an autoimmune issue, that is a fantastic approach to take, even if you do it for 28 days. 28 days is how long it takes for your body to clear any type of reactive antibodies out of its system. So you do an anti-inflammatory approach. You can do anti-inflammatory approach for, again, any kind of autoimmune, any type of arthritis, any type of ache and pain. Like if somebody has hormonal issues, you can put them on the anti-inflammatory diet, get their gut in a better place, and their hormones start to balance out a little more. So look up anti-inflammatory diet or autoimmune protocol, and then avoid gluten.
Follow-up question on that is the sourdough bread. I've heard that, like something that's a real actual sourdough, like that it ferments, like it eats up the gluten.
Right. Traditional, the traditional sourdough, how they're made, is way less of an impact on people who are gluten sensitive than typical. So do you guys know Serendipity, the little bakery?
Yeah.
She makes a traditional sourdough and then she makes one for other people. So if you're not looking for a traditional, like she makes the old fashioned traditional sourdough, but then she also makes one that more people like. So you can ask her for the traditional one.
Okay. Because I had my gallbladder taken out and then I noticed a lot more like issues with, say, like arthritis, and so I cut out gluten felt tons better, but I have to admit, like, I want bread.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
I had heard about sourdough and, anyway,
They're getting a lot better with gluten-free products. You
yeah.
have to be careful because sometimes you look at a gluten-free product and one, it might taste like cardboard, but the other thing is by the time they process it so much to make
Is it
it
any
gluten-free,
better?
it's like, so you just have to be kind of careful with that. Great, well, thank you all for having me this morning. It was helpful, and have a wonderful rest of your day.